Hello, I'm Jaden with Selectively Permeable. First, a basic description is one that allows certain molecules to pass through it by means of active or passive transport, or to be permeable to only certain molecules and not all molecules. If you look at this model, you will see that the blue larger molecules don't fit through the openings of the membrane, whereas the red smaller molecules easily pass in and out of the membrane. If you're not exactly sure about this example, you may find it easier if you think of real-world examples like fences, screens, doors, strainers, and tennis rackets. Now onto diffusion.
Thanks, Jaden. Hello, and welcome to the segment about osmosis. Osmosis is a type of diffusion, and it is the spontaneous net movement of solvent molecules through a semi-permeable membrane into a region of higher solute concentration, into the direction that tends to equalize the solute concentrations on the two sides. Secondly, the differences between solvent and solute is that solvent is a liquid and solute is a solid. Also, solvent particles move, but solute particles do not move. Moving on to the differences between osmosis and diffusion. Osmosis is a slow process, but diffusion is not. Also, osmosis always occurs in liquids, but the biggest difference between osmosis and diffusion is that both solvent and solute particles are free to move in diffusion, but only the solvent molecules cross the membrane in osmosis. An example of osmosis is water soak. When soaking dehydrated fruits and vegetables, the water isn't simply flowing into empty spaces inside the fruit. It is literally passing through the cell walls and rehydrating the fruits and vegetables. That's it for me. Now on to Julia.
Thanks, Maddie. Today I'll be discussing active and passive transport. Active transport is a movement of molecules across the cellular membrane into a region of higher concentration. In active transport, there are three different types for the cell to use. One way of active transport is forming a vesicle. In this process, the cell forms a vesicle to push and bundle the material outside the cell in. Another way is when the cell uses ATP. This procedure is called the sodium-potassium pump. The cell uses ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This process calls for 1-phosphate to shift the shape of the cell, creating an opening towards the outside of the cell. The final way is in which the cell transports molecules out of the cell by expelling them through an energy-dependent process. Active transport is used when the cell needs more material, such as potassium, but has a higher concentration inside the cell. The cell uses function to soon collect the potassium against the gradient. In passive transport, energy is not used. Passive transport is an action in which elements or molecules transport from a high concentration area to a low concentrated area. In this transportation, the cell wants to achieve its goal of its own of getting a balanced concentration. For example, if the cell needs more oxygen to survive, the cell will conduct the method to gather oxygen molecules without using any energy. Thanks for watching our presentation.
Hey Maddie, do you want to help me explain diffusion?
Sure, Jaden. Diffusion is the process whereby particles of liquids, gases, and solids intermingle as the result of their spontaneous movement caused by thermal agitation, and is dissolved substances move from a region of higher to one or lower concentration.
So basically, diffusion means to go from an area of high concentration to low concentration. We can use a model of drink mix to explain. When you pour the drink mix in, it diffuses throughout the whole bottle.
Bye!